Well, good evening and welcome to the Just Jump In live stream. How is everybody doing tonight? Happy Friday. Hope you're all looking forward to the weekend. Hope you have some model railroading stuff to attend to, or your own or others, and hope everyone is having a good Friday evening. Let's see who's in here. So our early bird, as usual, is Tim D with the virtual cookie. Welcome, Randy. Yeah, smooth jazz calms me down. That's my go-to type of music for sleep. So yeah, so I kind of like that one, and I I don't like to stick with the same thing. We've done so many shows. This is show 40. That I like to vary it a little bit. So threw that one out there. Hi, Mom. How are you? No Ranger game tonight, I take it. And if you're, and just give me a thumbs up, a hello, or something to tell me you can hear me, um, so that I'm not talking into nowhere like I was last week. So, in the meantime, I did a little bit of stuff this week. I had to get some supplies and wait on those, and so I'll take you through that journey. Thanks, Tim. Appreciate it. And then some other stuff that I was doing. I'll show you some tools and that I was waiting on, and where we're getting on the cab car now. But we'll start with one of the side projects. So, as you know, I have been looking for cars, rolling stock that I could print. And this was a really decent print. It came out really nice. There were a few problems with it, but I wanted to go ahead and practice decaling on it. And originally, I chose the color because if you're out here in Minnesota, you know, one of our local guys, William Sampson, wrote a book on the MNNS, the Minneapolis, Northfield, and Southern. And so I just wanted something with a different color. And so I wanted to go with this deep blue. And, but the local hobby shop didn't have the decals for that. And I spent some time there looking through decals and figuring out which ones would work. And I think I mentioned it last week. But when I bought the decals at full price, because there's Central of New Jersey was a freight company in New Jersey that I wanted to, add to the layout, because they did have some operations in my time. So I found it was kind of like a combined decal set with the ENN, with the St. Mary's Railroad and the New Jersey Central Railroad. So when I went to cut these out, I didn't realize when I grabbed this, and I don't know why I didn't see it, but it was open. So being, these are older and sitting there for many years, they were disintegrating, the decals, as I was cutting them out and put it in the water, and they would disintegrate. But I was trying to figure out, how I could, if I could use any of them at all and everything. And then I was looking through, because I was pulling out the microscale, microsol and microset, and I came across what I had in there was this liquid decal film. Now, I bought this originally to use on my inkjet printer. So you put this stuff on um, you put this on the decal paper, you let it dry, you print on it, and that ink, the inkjet ink, is gonna run if you um, touch it or anything, even after you let it dry. So you put a layer of this decal film over top. And so I said, okay, that's great. I liked it, and I used it and it worked well. But I didn't notice this little piece here, and it's probably pretty blurry. It is, but it says restore old decals. And I was like, okay, well, let me try that. And I had a few of the decals left. I even had one of the logos left, and that actually worked. And so I'll show you on here. So I had the logo going across these beams. Now these rivet beams um, are pretty prominent, so that they show up on a 3D print. They're really prominent. So you really had to tuck that decal in, and I overworked it, and I crumbled it myself. It was in one piece, but I scrunched it up and I couldn't save it. But it really worked to save these. If I was to pull this one off of the decal sheet and put it in the water, it would disintegrate in there. But with this liquid decal film, um, it worked just fine, and it looks pretty nice. If I move this up close, and again, it's more like if I kind of focus in on it and stop moving. Let's see if I can get it to focus. There we go. You can see the lines from the lines in here from the printing. And so let's see if we can get it. There we go. It still comes out pretty good and looks decent on there. So I have 4 different decals. I had all that information right there. I had that one there, and those 2 were individual ones as well, and they all made it. So that was fun to see that works and all. I fear that I'm going to have to do that with the New Jersey Transit decals, because they're not. Some of them are open, weren't sealed. And of course, they're under a pile somewhere. You go to protect them, and they get buried. But there's some rather big decals on the New Jersey Transit decal sets, because you have the decals for, you have the long decal that goes across the windows, but I know that it's going to work to protect them. And I bought as many as I could find of the New Jersey Transit ones, so I'll have a lot that I can work with and mess up. Let's catch up in the chat here. Hey, Split Rock, welcome in. Nice to see you in here. Gopher Girl, you made it. So, yep. That groovy music, that's the stuff that's the calming stuff for me. So, really like that. So, yeah, Split Rock, the Champs decals, I've gotten a few of those as well. I've fared better with those than the micro scale ones, but the Champs decals are all older too, so I'm sure they'll work. Coughing and wheezing, Randy, from doing all that outdoor stuff, I'm sure. So yeah, Split Rock. I did for these. I did make sure I actually did 2 coats. I think it said that well, I think I went on the website and they say it can dry in 15 minutes. So after 15 minutes, I did just spread some more on. And it just so happened I had some other things to do. So it actually got to dry overnight because I wasn't able to get to it till the next day. And so, and some people have said let it dry for a full day. I don't know if that makes a difference, but my success is my success here. So I'll make sure to do that with the other decals. Kyle, welcome in. Nice to have you in here. Appreciate you stopping by and saying hi. But anyway, so that was a good win. I just happen to have one of those split rock. Don't use it for my own hair. As you know, my hair is short. Um, but I use it for, and I actually think I bought it years ago for the hobby. I didn't buy it to dry my hair because my hair was always short. So yeah, so that was one of the things that I worked on. Oh, and I did put, you can't really see it too close there, but I put one of the decals on in the middle there as well. So that was a successful little test, and um, I was thinking that I could order the M, N, and S decals. They have them in stock at micro scale, so if I do want to do it on the other car, I certainly could do that. But we'll see where we go from there because these I use as test cars. The boxcar, yes, the boxcar is a 3D print. I don't think you were. I don't think you said hi at the one of the last two shows. But I've been printing. I've been trying to find a number of prints, a number of cars to try and print, regardless of what they are. I just want to see if I, get my printing skills down. And so this was the one that made it easy because it was a nicely designed one. Um, here's one that I'm currently working on. I had to get more couplers. I ran out of those. Working on the I got to get more screws on there. The designer didn't do a great job on the wheel sets for these. So I found a set, somebody who had a part of one of the other cars. And it might have been even part of this one. But I printed out, I don't know, 20 of these frames because they look really nice and they're functional. And I get these in on any of the cars, and I get the wheels in. The wheels all spin really well, and they're always. I use the gauge for them, and they're always level. So. I'm not particular when I'm doing these about which wheel sets to use or anything. So, but they don't take long at all. So yeah, I was thinking of bringing all of the models off to collect all of the model makers, designers' names and everything. To bring these, I'll bring the cab car. I'll bring the flat car as well. So I'll definitely bring that to show people because I don't think I have much else to show. I'll probably bring. I don't think I brought the abandoned depot last year, so I'll bring that. I have to fix the diorama frame, but that should take minutes. So yeah, that's the plan. So. I'm not sure if I successfully showed this last week, but I was looking for a flat car load, and so I tested this out. Um, these are really delicate, these ends here, and they've broken off very easily. They were attached as part of the 3D print. And then these rolls, these wire rolls, were separate. And then I'm using styrene to be the to house the rolls on here. And you know, I was gonna you could, depending on how you want to do it, you could actually unload these. If I keep these loose, they'll stay on a car just fine going around a layout. And then when I do a drop off, since the frame should stay with the car, you just could unload those. So next thing to do on these is to paint. But I've successfully printed a couple of them now. And these were designed really nicely. The ends, that printed really nice and will look nice as wood on there as well, at least from a distance. And um, so I was working on that. You can see one here. I printed this one, and handling this one came off, and it actually kind of broke into 2 or 3 pieces. So this is kind of useless at this point, or you could do it without that and just have that empty. I mean, it's not useless, but another one I wanted to try and print was like a load for the open hoppers that I have. And so this is a junk load. I think this one will be kind of tedious to paint, but for a filament printer, this came out really nice. The only problem is the person who designed this didn't put any measurements on it, so I wasn't sure if it's going to fit. And it's about 2 or 3 millimeters short on the ends. And there are things you could do with the 3D printers to change the size, but the only way to the sides fit just fine. But the only way to change that would be to extend the sides, and that would distort things. But it was a really nice load anyway. So this one was really delicate. I mean, it was kind of interesting. This is one piece on the bottom that they had, and it fits snugly in there, so easy to glue in. Um, the this is really thin and finicky, and you can see. So this is a separate part. This top part is separate on here, and the way it prints out, and getting this to glue on was troublesome. Also, this really thin bar here kind of broke off here. I did have some kind of print issues over here. These two broke off, and I didn't glue this to everything. I had to get it in place, and it already this is just really delicate in the middle. So if I could perfect that, then it's an easy print. And these, I don't know if this costs the printout part, the printed parts of this probably only cost overall $2 or $3 total, and then everything else was added. And obviously, using the printed wheels there, or the printed wheel set there, and the covers for the coupler pockets, part of the print, part of the main print, and then you print the covers to them. So not expensive at all, but very delicate in there. And one of those things is this would look incredible if you could do the detail of the supports in resin. This would look really incredible for a useful car. The 3 foot rule. This would work just fine. So, do I wash the 3D prints? I don't wash the 3D prints before painting. Um, they're not sitting around. They're not getting dusty really. So I don't. I prime everything too. Um, and the biggest thing I have to watch out for with painting um, is the dog hair that we have all over the house. It gets in everything, even if the dogs don't come in this room, but it gets in here. It's on me, that's the biggest pain with painting. But no, I just prime them. Um, are the STL files free? Yes, I only go after free stuff. I'm not confident with my printing enough to say, even if they're $3, $4, $5, or $6, I'm not confident enough that to spend the money and then continuously have failed prints. The upside to even buying a file is you have it, it's yours, and you can print it at any time. So as you get better at printing, you can perfect it and everything. But yes, I'm always looking for the free files. When I use a website called Yegi, and it's like a meta site that searches all of the 3D printing sites out there, and I always filter on free. So and I'm not an expert on the difference between resin, Ken, and filament. I don't know if there's a difference, but you don't have I do know you don't have the steps for curing the 3D prints that you have for resin with filament. When you print a filament print, they're basically ready to go. So I think there's some difference there, but I would defer to other more expert people to answer those questions. Maybe I am doing something wrong that I could do better. Um, but I'm willing to learn. So the other thing I wanted to move along on was the cab car, and I wanted to get things moving with wiring and the decoder. So I worked on the decoder buddy, the decoder, the speaker, and getting everything connected, soldered, and as you know, last week I talked about having a problem with links. I always have a problem with the links, and I'm trying to be really economical, and I want this. I'd rather this be all flat and against the top, and not be so ugly looking and all over the place and have wires dangling. I'm never good at that. So I had mentioned that my fixes for the wiring on this side, but I did get this set in here. I'm using double stick tape to keep these to the roof at this point. I got everything soldered in up to the track power, or before the track power. So I got the speaker put together that came with the decoder, and I'm not sure if you can see here, but the decoder is really just this piece right here, this one right here. Underneath that, what it's connected to is the decoder buddy from Nick's Trains, um, and giving me all of the space I need and all of the different things I need to add to this. So I haven't been able to test it yet because I don't have track power connected to it. And I've gotten advice from a couple of people and some videos on adding track power to this because it only had these little metal pieces here, and I don't know if that was designed for DCC, so probably overdoing it. But um, the the suggestion I had gotten was to use brass brass tubing to put on the wheel set and solder the wires to the wheel set. So I said I'm going to try that. So yeah, Split Rock, you don't have to spend 5 years learning CAD. There are plenty of files out there. Um, I everything I've shown you that I've printed that I didn't design is all free. And so you can find plenty of stuff. And you can connect with folks. Wigwag, welcome. Nice to see you in here. It's been a while. Um, so you just connect with people out there. Um, you'll find the 3D printed files. People will have them that maybe they don't publish them, but they'll have them, and many will share. So definitely something to do so that you can just print. I mean, yes, I spend time trying to print and trying to design, but that doesn't take the bulk of my printing up. The bulk of my printing is the free stuff. Um, so so um, ultimately, um, researching this after talking to people brought me back to a gentleman who's no longer with us, who was an incredible modeler. He was an innovator. He wasn't afraid of electronics and showed everybody how easy things could be, or at least he made it look easy and made you want to do stuff. And that was Larry Eggerling and his creaky chair models business. But there's plenty of videos out there that he's done that are still out there, even though he has passed. Let me let me see if I can throw it up here. Let's try that again. So that's the video for this process. So I'll put it up there, but what'll be easier for all of you is if I throw it in the chat. I can't. Split Rock. I know you knew him. I didn't know him personally, but I watched just about every video he's done. Anytime he's done a talk or a clinic, I've watched. He just seemed like a fun guy to be around, and just kind of loved what he did. And but I've learned a lot from him. So he talked about, he said, get, and I missed the detail, but he said, get brass tube. He uses Intermountain wheels, which I normally do too. I didn't realize that when I was working with these, I mean, I realized it, but I didn't remember. These aren't Intermountain wheels, but they're about the same diameter. And he said, get a brass tube that's 1/8, and he used K&S, like we all do. So I went out and got it, and it was the 1/8, and it didn't fit, and I couldn't. So I had to watch it like 3 times, and he's like, you got to get it with the interior diameter being 1/8. So I had to go get that after working on it, and so that was the 5/32 is just slightly bigger than the 1/8, and the interior is just slightly bigger than 1/8. It's 0.128 inches. Um, and so after trying, and the other thing I was doing is the only thing I had was one of those hobby saws, and then I pulled out a hacksaw or something, and I was trying to cut the tube, and I was just doing the 1/8 tube, and it wasn't working well at all. And in the video, he talks about the saw called the JLC saw, and he gave you credit, Split Rock, in the video for turning him on to that. So I had to wait for that to come in because I went out and ordered it. And it came in this little box. It's really tiny. And the idea is the kerf of it, the thickness of it is super thin. And it's also the hobby saws you have to pull back on all the time. But this one had the blades, you weren't it wasn't just a pull saw. So and shockingly, I practiced it a couple times because I just got it. I just got the tube today, so I practiced it. You know, maybe during work, maybe not. Who knows? But it cut like butter through it. It's amazing, but it's really sensitive. So here's the saw, and don't mind this part right here. When I say it's really sensitive, I mean it's really, really thin. If you look at that, let's see if we can pull that up. That's how thin it is, and it cuts right through a brass tube. Now, I was pressing too hard, and it sort of slipped and went on an angle, and it cracked this. But for $12.95 plus shipping, you get the handle, you get the blades, you get 2 blades. So I have another blade here that it came with, but you can use both sides of these blades, so you can flip it over, which I did. So you basically have 4 blades to use. The only thing that I wish that I could do with it differently, because I tend to, my hand just makes it go on an angle. I'd rather be able to fit into one of these guides, and but what you run into is the holder for the blade, so you can't go further than that, unfortunately. So if I was going to do something, I'd have to make some kind of jig that would just be high enough, just go as high as that, maybe, if I was going to make something out of that, just to keep the cut straight, because every time I cut, it's been on an angle. And so what that looks like is here, let's see, is this here, and it sits on there, and it just sits on there, and so it'll make contact. So the one thing I don't have to complete this is I don't have a current keeper, and it's been recommended that when you do this, because there is a gap and because there is movement, to have a current keeper, and so I need to get that added in. So time to 3D print a new. So now I have to go design a miter box. But I certainly could do that. I don't know if I have, my skills with measuring things is not very good, but maybe a possibility. So the next thing is I've already pre-cut the wire. So my plan with this is to go from here, sort of have it go to the end, hide it as much as possible. And this has 2 holes on either end. And so the idea would be to feed the wires through. Of course, there's junk in there because looks like there's some it's gonna give me trouble putting this through, but I will get it through there at some point, and then it'll just come down and it'll be soldered onto this. And so this should stay in place with solder, with just a dollop of solder on there. And the wheel should move freely. It's moving freely in my finger right now as I'm holding the brass tube, and that's going to generate enough to give you the power. But the current keeper would make sure that when there is a little bit of gap, that it keeps that moving. So that's the over-engineered way of doing it and kind of hiding the wire for that. And so that will be next, and I'll have to see if I can get a current keeper for this. And then we'll eventually have track power, and I can actually test this, make sure it all works after doing all this work. And then once I test it, if it all works, miracle of miracles, it'll be I've got to finish all that work I did on here. I've got to repaint that, and then there's some details to put on the door in here, some railings to put on there, and some on the front end as well, and the back end as well. Some they call them gates, and they were way too small to print. The stuff that I was going to put on top, like the lift rings, were too small to print. I couldn't get those to print even with the smaller nozzle. Couldn't get those to work right. So if I put those details on, I'll do that with styrene. And then after all that, it's doing the decals, and this will be done. So this won't be anywhere near done for the modelers retreat coming up here real shortly, but I'll still bring this to show people what I'm working on. So let me see here. Let's go. So for the saw, just to show everybody the website, and I'll put that up as well. And I'll share the website. Here's the direct link. Let's go out to share screen, and I'll go out to the website. And let's do that. Let's edit that. Let's give everybody this is the link to this supplier. Now I've looked at other stuff. I've started to look at other stuff, but I haven't looked deeply at it. There is one orderless CA that I want to try. They don't have it. Different from the one I have, because it's a little bit cheaper, but I'm also having trouble finding a supplier for it. The brand of that one is called Starbond. So anyway, here's the saw. It's 2 blades and the wooden handle. And that come with it, and he got it out to me in no time. Only a couple days. It was coming from Deerfield, Illinois to Minnesota. So $12.95, and I think it was pretty standard, like $6.95 for shipping. He protected it very well in that box, and then he put in, he wrapped it in this and used part of a USPS box, priority mail box, to set it flat. So it came, and it was, it was going to be pretty hard to bend it, but it came like that in the US mail. All good, and just shocking how easy this is to to use, but this is the website where you can find it and find a lot of other tools as well. So, I mean, and so you only need a 1/2 inch. So I use the cutting mat here. This is a 1/2 inch. One of these squares is a 1/2 inch. So I try to do it a little shorter than that. Um, and just when you're holding this down, if you don't have a box like that, and then you're just going back and forth on it, and it's amazing the difference. You would think with a bigger saw and more powerful that it would cut easier, but this is way easier. And if you can see, I just got it started, but it cuts like, just so easy. So that was a good suggestion, Split Rock. Yeah, that's a little hard to do with that side, but you know, this is a good investment. I can say now because I have that, so it'll be easy to do all this. And soldering for me, I'm messy with it. It's not great, and the solder I have is pretty thick, so it's a little harder to manage on small projects. But some of these have solder on them from the Decoder Buddy, so it makes it a little bit easier. Yep, they do. They also have packs of the blades too, so that they are really, really thin, so they're susceptible to breakage, especially if you have a hard grip like I do. So it wouldn't hurt you to buy replacements. But if you're careful with it, more careful than me, you may not have to buy a replacement. I think Larry was saying that he's had his for a while and didn't need to replace his blade. He had a lighter touch than I did, so that's what I've been working on. So. Yeah. If anybody, it would be Ken. It would be me. So yeah, where do you get that solder? The other thing I got, because again it was available and it was cheap, was this. I think it's more like a plumber solder. It's not plumber, flux. It's really thick, and I see people using the liquid um, flux all the time. So I'm curious what all of you think. If you like the liquid flux, or does flux matter to you? What type you use? But what I have is really thick, so just curious. It works fine. Let's see here. Let me show you a couple things. So one of them is this. So I've been using another cheap fix for another cheap tool, and that's using a sponge to clean off the soldering iron. You dampen a sponge and you just put the soldering iron in there. But most people use this this metal stuff, and you just press in the soldering iron a couple times and it takes the solder right off. And so this is a 3D printed holder. So instead of buying the holder and everything, this just opens up and it has that in there, and you just stick the soldering iron in there and it works great. So that was a cheap alternative. I did buy the pack of these. There's a bunch that came in the pack, and I don't know how often. That's another question for everybody. How often do you replace these? Um, but I bought a pack of 11, so it wasn't that bad. I did see, like, in the dollar store, they have basically cleaning material, like almost like what do you call it? Not Brillo, but that type of thing, steel wool type of thing. But it was this. It wasn't steel wool, and so I could have gotten it real cheap there. But I'm happy I saved on it by printing this out. Um, and then I use it. This one I've had, and I know there's been new ones since, but my soldering iron's not that typical Weller type soldering iron. This one I got from Amazon. It's called I think it's a TS 100. It's in there in metal and some junk on. Oh, it's a cover to it, but it's called a TS 100. I know there's something like a TS 101. So but I've had this probably, I'm guessing 6, 7, 8 years, maybe by now. So, yep. So there's this. I've never seen that, Randy, with flux in a fine tip applicator. You used him Chip Quick solder and Kester 186. Is there anything special about those, or just what you've used? You have a Hacko and always spill it. Okay. Yep, you can. There's often solder around jewelry supply places. I agree with that, Wigwag. So So this isn't cordless split rock. And actually, the one downside to this is the size of the um, cord. This was originally designed to be kind of like a travel, um, something to travel with instead of your big Weller or those things like that. So what's that mean? So this is the cord. So to go to the wall, it's literally fits in the camera. And so it doesn't go far. So that's the one downside to this. So I use an extension cord with it. But this is thin enough and doesn't get in the way. And I originally got this. Well, of course, Gopher Girl got it for me. But I got it because the tip was thin. The whole thing was thin, and this whole part in here being thin enough. And when I was doing N scale, so I could get into a shell without, destroying the shell. So that was the original impetus behind that. But I've grown to really like it, and it heats up. They say it heats up in 11 seconds. I don't know if that's true, but it heats up. It gets, it's hot. When I've been working with some of the smaller wires in here, I've tried to use a lower temperature, and it takes a little bit longer for me to melt some of the solder. So maybe it was too low, but normally I use a high temperature. I think I've gone up to 700 or 750 degrees, and I get through projects really easy with it. And so this is my little soldering kit. Here is this is the flux, this lead-free So I either got this at Home Depot or Menards. So that's the flux in it, and it's thick. It looks like that. Um, and it's got a lot of dog hair in it because this stuff sticks and gets everything in it. Here is the main one I use, because the other one I have is so old it's almost like it's dirty, and it doesn't melt well, it doesn't stick well. So I've stayed away from it. But with this being as thick as it is, and it gets, just a little drop of this becomes really thick on this fine tip. I struggle with some smaller stuff. So like with the Decoder Buddy, these the connections on the end are super tiny, so the tip can handle this. And I have other tips that come with the kit, but this pointed tip, I would have no problem with. But the thickness of this solder becomes the problem. So I could just go out and get some other flux. How old is this flux? This is Radio Shack. I have no idea how old this is, but it's probably 30 or 40 years old, and it works better than the other one that's about the same. I stole a lot from my dad after he died. It comes with this little stand on here, so that when it's sitting and it's hot, it sits right on there. It's getting a little loose, I think, but it still works. I've only burned myself a couple times. I taught Gopher Girl to solder and let her solder once, but she wanted to hold like wire, like the end of wire, like right here, and solder it. And I'm like, you're gonna burn yourself just from the heat around the area of it. And but I'm sure I burned myself more than she has. Hey, Mystic, welcome. Didn't see you slip in there. So Randy, what you're saying is you can make things look gigantic and make it easy to see what you're doing. Perfect for modeler. I am well, Mystic, and I hope you're well as well too. Yeah, I was too young, I think, to really appreciate Radio Shack for what it is, or what it was. As a modeler and somebody who will work with electronics for their modeling, they would have been invaluable. So I'm kind of sad that they're not around. Tim, yeah, solo contracting. I've watched many of his videos, and so I'll have to check that out as well. That's the other thing for Gopher Girl is which is very helpful for stuff, and probably keeps her from burning herself on stuff, is her hands are way more steady. I've got a tremor on mine. I can see it a little bit, but I've got a tremor on mine. So yeah, I have a history with women in my life who have done damage to themselves with sharp objects and things. So I'm very skittish around women using things like a soldering iron, but I'll get over it because she has a steadier hand than I do. Yes, nothing like, yes, scorched anything, and scorched flesh of any kind. Yeah, she could. Yeah, Gopher Girl could fit her hand in an N scale uh, locomotive shell. I can't do that. The other thing I have in here is, of course, toothpicks. because they're good for everything, and then some desoldering stuff. And there's a desoldering pen that goes with those. But you can even just desolder, even if you don't use the pen. You put this down on the soldered part. You heat it up with the soldering iron, and this will wick up. It's braided, so it'll wick up that solder, and once it loosens. And then there was some incredible deal to get some nice thin stereo speaker wire type of stuff from NCE from their company website, and so I got that. So that's what I'm using for the thinnest stuff. But this has become like tool time or something tonight. But yeah, I've had this for years and I really love it. If something were to happen to it, I'd probably look at the new models. It was an Amazon purchase. Just search TS100. You'll find it on there. Yeah, that's not a good idea, Ken. Should we ask how you know? Gopher girl, it is not instinct to try and catch it. You get out of the way. So anyway, I guess I should just, for N scale, this thing works well, but just to show you, just getting in here would be really easy to get in here, and not, my thing is I got to make sure I don't lean this against the sides. As long as you don't do that, you're fine with the tip. And I haven't used the other tips. I've stuck with this one, but there's like a chisel tip and some others that came with it as well. I actually have to find the box where the other tips are because I just never have used them. I've gotten used to this and don't want to mess with a good thing, I guess. So yeah. So this is the only downside is the connection for it. So there you go. I also have probably a little big to show on a camera, but I also have a filter and fan to suck up the fumes. Okay. Because those can be nasty. I don't know if you probably not. This is it, but this is the box. There's a filter in here. There's a knob on here for how high you make it, how you make the sound, the fan, and it just goes to this fan end, and this is totally adjustable. So I get this right over a project, and the soldering iron's small enough and I can see around this very easily. And, I always have it on high to suck up those fumes because they're nasty. Gives me a chance to listen to the Crossing Gate podcast with some earbuds in, drowns out the noise, and I'm listening to things like the Crossing Gate podcast. So that's something I struggle with. Split Rock 2 is I'm not good with some of the manual wire strippers. So in comparing the wire strippers out there, I got this one, and this one works fine for wire this size. But when you're getting into like that speaker wire, um, and some of these other really thin wires, it doesn't strip it well. And so I end up having to hold down when this comes down, hold this down and pull. And when you do that, even with these small wires, it really doesn't grip them very good, and it usually just snips them right off. And that's how I ended up having to do kind of like a surgery in here, um, to fix this. So I had some of the wires fall short, so I had gotten additional wire and combined them and did surgery to fix that. But I haven't found a good solution myself. So this was a good solution for stripping most of the wires, but when you get really small, really thin, like that speaker wire, I don't have a great um, I don't have a great suggestion. And if anybody does have a suggestion for Split Rock's question, I'm all ears for that too, because it's really annoying with these tiny wires. So the most success though that I've had with in stripping those wires has been this, but it doesn't come out great, because I can strip like one end, then I'll try to turn it over and get the other end, and I'll catch it. And this is but using a blade is where I've had the most success for these tiny wires. I I've not um I've not tried fingernails, Kyle. So I have to go back and take a look at that. So you Klein tools, wire strippers, Tim, are they specifically for like speaker wire or wire that small, or they're just one that works well? I actually didn't feel I didn't uh, here's the thing with with soldering. So with my eyes getting worse, I found myself getting closer to the work I'm doing. So if I'm sitting in here doing this really close, um, and it's up to my face, that's not good in the first place because I'll probably burn myself with the soldering iron. But that being said, um, I was breathing those fumes in and I was starting to feel it. So it was definitely time to um, definitely time to get that. And that was an Amazon purchase. Another thing, that's one of those things that I think I didn't spend that much on. I don't recall how much it was, but I certainly was looking for a deal on it. And yet I don't think you should skimp on stuff like that when it comes to health, personally. So you said there. I'm open. If you have a link, Tim, or something to that the wire stripper you have, I'd be interested if it's working for you. For because they have a bunch of them. Um, they have one that looks like the larger one that I have. This is a Gardner Bender is kind of like a generic one. You find them at most. You can find Gardner Bender at like Home Depot. But I still think I had to. This had to be ordered online still. Um, I've tried kind of, I've or looked at different kinds, but yeah, so still struggle a little bit with that one. You found one at Home Depot that'll go to 30 gauge wire. I'm sure I can't find anything around here that'll go that small. But I'll take a look. I'll see because um, if I'm gonna if I'm gonna make any more of these at any time or do anything with speaker wire or anything, it needs something that's a little bit easier to use. DigiKey has something, Randy. Okay, I'll have to check them out. Yeah, and key not only not only hoping it works, hoping you don't cut yourself too, because you're getting your hands in there trying to control the wire. Um, so, so you said DigiKey has that. So tools, let's see, cables, wires. They got tons of tools there. So, I've had wire strippers like these. Um, but I don't know if I hold them too close, like too hard again with too hard of a grip or something. But I do see that they have them there. They have like a pair for looks like 1277 for 20 to 30 gauge wire stripper. Let's see here. Let's go see if we can pull it up. Let's see what they got here. So let's share this with you guys. So here they have one. Here's the one I saw. Looks like it's 1277 for one of them, but you can buy them in bulk. Maybe you can only buy them in bulk. Not sure here, but they advertise this one. Where is it? Right. Oh, both of these are. Oh, that's a wire cut. This one is. So these are the ones I've always struggled with. I have a pair of these that mostly cuts the wire, but it has a spot for stripping. It has these holes for stripping the wire. I've always struggled with those though. But they do have it here, and they're saying quantity 12, unless that's one box. I'm not sure. You have to check with them on that to verify the price. Looks like they even tell you it takes them 2 weeks to get it out. But again, I don't know if you can really see that on here, but it gives you the gauge on the side there. So have to try something like that for the thin wire, but certainly can go out to just digikey.com and then you can either go through the product list or go through the category list or search, and I just searched for it. So what else is going on out there? What's everybody working on tonight or this weekend? Tim, I'll have to check that out, the Client Tools stripper that you have in there. Is that the Client Tools that see here, which one did you 11057? They got a bunch there. Yeah, see 11055. There's 11057. Looks like if these are accurate, let's have them at multiple stores. Looks like they run in the $20 to $30 range, mostly in the low 20s. So here it is listed at Lowe's. And this one says 22 to 32 AWG stranded. Strips, cuts, and loops. That's my problem, is I go right from strip to cut sometimes. That's your cutter right there. What presentation are you working on, Ken? Or will I just have to wait and find out? What kind of scenery supplies are you looking for, Kyle? Scenery is one of the things I'm glad I did some of that first before anything else, because easiest to hide mistakes with that kind of thing, and easiest to be a novice and have success at. So I really like doing the scenery stuff. That's not like you, Randy, to have not be doing something. Okay. So let's see here. Shakopee Lowe's, 4 in stock at Shakopee. Plymouth. It looked like I don't know. 4 seems like low stock, but yeah, your closest one's probably Shakopee, even for you, unless you're closer to Plymouth, but I wouldn't think so. So, uh, so it looks like they do. So Kyle, for ballast, what do you use? I started with the Woodland Scenics, but was always frustrated because those shells, the walnut shells, would go everywhere because they're so light. And I found, and I was searching on my own, and I found Arizona Rock and Mineral, and really liked that because it's just a little bit heavier and well, that's a mess I just made. Looks it all looks great. My just jump in sign just tried to get away. So, whoops, sorry guys. No. Yeah. Willow Creek, welcome, Brad. Nice to see you or hear from you anyway. And as I say, you're never late. You're just missing the party, I guess. And so I was just, we got really into a tool discussion. I was showing some progress or on the what the heck happened there? Why are you showing that? Okay, that's weird. So I was showing progress on the cab car with the decoder and the decoder buddy and the speaker, getting it all in there. But I need track power, so I'm trying something that a couple people have suggested, and that's actually putting brass tubing onto the wheels, and then you solder wire to it, and it has enough room for the wheel to move without a problem, and that'll get the track power. And so once I do that, then we'll see if the lighting and the sounds work. I was waiting on something, so I don't know if you've seen this before, but this thing called a JLC saw. It's a really fine saw, and it's not a pull saw, so you can go both directions with it, and it cuts through brass tubing like butter. So this was a good pickup. The link will be in the chat, so you can scroll through the chat and find the link to it. It's worth it. Split Rock, who's in the chat, is somebody who's spread the gospel about this saw, and so and don't mind the fact that I already broke it. Both sides you can use as a saw blade. So yeah, that's what I've been working on. You're talking quite the setup if you think I can live stream from there. I'm just happy to show my models and let have people walk by and say, that looks neat. That's good enough for me. It's interesting the difference from between the modelers meets and I didn't sit. I know we had one person was doing the billboards there, and that would have been kind of neat to sit in on. It would be neat to have somebody sit there and showing what they're doing. I'm better explaining what I've already done, but I get that stage fright, and so that's why I'm hardly you see my arms and my hands sometimes on camera, but you get me up in front of a crowd of people and I'm going to just crumble and be in the fetal position under the table. But I will share my knowledge with anybody who wants to sit down with a one-on-one and just talk to me. I get no problems with that. It's when the crowds start coming around. So it's a good thing I don't get crowds. But appreciate the sentiment. That's why I haven't done clinics. I was saying I would love to work with people with sculptamold. I'm talking about scenery. I really like doing sculptamold stuff. So, well, interesting. What happened there? So, you guys can't see me because the camera went away. Let's see. That was interesting. Nothing like a few technical difficulties. Have a good night, Ken. Thanks for coming in. So I think I leave the techie stuff to Split Rock, and he's our guru with the podcast and the YouTube channel. Which I should ask Split Rock. I know we're gonna have the live layout tours, but is there any plans to do some filming of some layouts in the cities and add them to the Twin Cities YouTube channel? I think I know we have different scales and everything, but if the if somebody was willing to let us borrow a camera car, or if we could somehow obtain a camera car, would be really neat to go from layout to layout in the cities, and folks in the division, no matter where they are, but then have them run their layout with the camera car. I think that would be a super neat idea and really get an in-depth view of everyone's layout. Would be something. So I'll throw that out there as a neat thing to do. So if anybody wants to donate a camera car for N scale, HO scale, and that dreaded S scale, that would be pretty neat. Yeah. Yes, see the cobwebs up close, but if you get a good view and and the scenery's done, you can really immerse yourself in there, and I think that's a really a neat way to see the layouts. Some people have even put like an overlay of a and locomotive interior kind of thing, so that you're looking out the windows, the windshield of the locomotive and everything. But I think it would be a neat way to get people to show their layouts without having to show it themselves. Something like that, just to get them, just to get them to show it off, because I've only been to a few, and the ones I've been to have been just excellent, and you can learn so much from them. And so anyway, just an idea to throw out there. Soon I'm not going to be the idea man anymore anyway, and so I got to get them all out before May comes. So right. So, Brad, what are you working on tonight? I mean, your project seems to be never ending. I mean, it looks really good, but it seems to keep going for. Uh, so, wondering if you got started on another project or you're doing the same project. And that's probably because I haven't um, seen your stuff for at least a few days. Um, so, and I forgot to ask you, Kyle. You said that you're being your first layout. Are you modeling? Are you kind of freelancing it, proto-lancing it, prototyping it? Um, you know, you name it. We've all done scenery stuff, so we can all help you um, with any questions you have about scenery products. And I keep trying stuff. Now I haven't done a lot of scenery lately, but um, the last thing I dove into um, was static grass, and so I've had a little bit of practice with that. I'm still not great with it, um, but you know the thing, and I haven't done anything where I have gone off of a picture yet because it's all been testing. I have this big board that I was testing. I don't have a way to really show it, but I have this board where I was testing how snow would look on roads, and so my roads, at least the ones I have on the current layout or current modules, is made of tile grout, and um, so I was using different techniques, and I have like 4 roads that I built, and then different techniques to have snow build up on them and have it look grimy, like it's been driven on and stuff. So I'm always testing different things. So if I've done anything that can be a help, I'm happy to help. Are you in the squash tournament, Brad? Because can't you do some modeling on the sideline of a squash tournament? Well, you need to get better soon, Randy, because we got the Mahler's retreat coming up, and can't be getting us all sick. I mean, you could be, but that would be mean. Um, that's a good question, Split Rock. When am I coming over to see the Split Rock Mining Company? So, okay, so the that's the good thing about it. Even if you're doing prototype, even with prototype, you're still making it look like it. You're not going to get everything perfect because everything doesn't fit. So it's all about the pictures. What pictures you can find for it, is use those pictures to get what your grass looks different in different places, and yards look different in different places. So if you're kind of trying to proto freelance it and you want it to give the feel, then just copy some pictures, and try and find um, the scenery material that looks most like that. And as long as you give it a feel, it doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to have the same height grass. It doesn't have to, necessarily have grass. If even if there is grass on the scene, it's just how you present it. And I'd be interested to see your progress on that, because you know um, 80s and 90s is what I'm looking at for modeling for my New Jersey Transit line. And I have memories of the station, and I could detail it that way, and I won't have any photo proof. So as long as I get it close enough to make myself feel like it's kind of like the New Jersey Transit line, like, I'm thinking when you're talking super detailing something, if you the station that I used growing up was up on a platform on a bridge, so it was probably 15, 20 feet in the air. And so back behind it towards the wall, it was separated from the station. You had to kind of walk out onto it. There was a gap. And so if you looked in there, everybody threw their junk down there. And I can remember a certain smell. So those are the things I'm going to use to make my scenery. But it's probably, if somebody could probably pick it apart, but I don't care as long as it gives the feel. So yeah, I would just check out those photos that you can find of different locations. One of the previous shows, Split Rock was talking about if doing a prototype scene, and I was talking about creating tunnels, because when New Jersey Transit goes under the Hudson River from New Jersey into New York Penn Station. And so I was trying, and so I showed a picture of the entrance to the tunnels, and Split Rock was saying, well, are you going to make that a prototype scene? Because you can make that a prototype scene. So I could take that scene and make, something similar to that, and give that feel. And then you show people pictures of that scene, and it's not going to look exactly the same. So um uh I just look at pictures. That's all I do. I go on, I'm on Google Earth all the time. I try to find pictures. When I when I was looking for pictures of like the cab car, I'm also looking at the scenery around it. I'm looking at how it comes into the stations and stuff, and that's what I'm going to use to build. Yeah, as long as Railroad Picture Archives is working for you, it works on and off for me. It's been working well lately. Um, it's a great resource, and and I know Ken left. He had to go, but he brought in to one of our meetings a bunch of pictures of different things around different areas, and had us all talking about them and picking them apart for scenery. So that's the thing you could do too, is take a picture or find a picture along the B&O route in the 80s, and yeah, you'll probably find some good video. It'll be, well, some video of um, on YouTube of stuff like the B&O, and certainly I'll point it out to you if I find anything. So I'm excited to see what you're going to do, and hopefully get some good scenery materials, and start showing us how that's going. So Yeah. Hey, Split Rock, have a good night. See you next time. Okay, and hopefully by next time as well, I'll have something that it's ambitious, but I'm hoping by next time I'll have something that has some sound and lights on it, and see if we can move forward with that. Um, but I'll say, have a fantastic weekend. Um, just jump in and try something. You may not love it. Try something else, and you'll find your hobby. You'll find your fun. And everybody again, have a fantastic night.